Welcome back, or welcome if you are new. We are back with Paper Trails part 2 of 3. So if you didn't see part 1, you need to go look at that, or else this is not going to make any sense. Later, after 2 more floors of papers and notes, I'll come back to that. I found on the stairs a sign of my predecessors. A note not unlike the first in appearance and content. Unfortunately, here it goes. I seem to be still ahead of them. As to the extent, I am still of my own will and still breathing. Can't say for how long this will hold. Not for as long as I would like, I'm afraid. Since my chances to bring this all to the light seems to be as good as a farmer outlook in the bowl, I will put to use what time I have left. It all started out as a rumor I overheard in a hole in the wall some months back. Some guy talking some other guy's ear off. How much money he had made bringing new workers to the pipe works. This got me curious. An operational company having to pay someone to get new workers in a time when hundreds of thousands are out of work. Desperate for anything that brings them money for another day. As a freelance reporter, I did not need much more to get on it. I managed to get into one of the next draws, as they called it. We were a couple of 20 or so guys looking for work, getting rounded up in a truck and get driven out here to make more pipes. All of me, except yours truly, out of work farmers. Farm hands and some drifters looking for a handful of cash. Nobody that would be asked after. At last, not from the right people. We got quarters in nearby sheds. Cheap affairs, but still better than most of the others had ever known. First week brought us the usual misery of low-grade, low-paid workers, 12 hours a day in a loud, dusty, humid, and above all, hot environment. My suspicions began already to crumble. Taking a hefty whacking after the first week's pay turned out somewhat less than a rainfall than most of us had expected. But then it started. Great king of cliffhangers, they called him, I bet, and the splash of what looks like dirt and ink across the page would be just that. Anyway, back to where I came from. Since paper has a certain sort of attraction to me, one never knows when someone else was careless enough to write something down which he shouldn't have done in the first place. I couldn't not resist lighting a candle. I found a whole room of old-timely lighting implements like candles and oil lamps and stuff, and doing some serious reading. It still is as quiet like it can only get underground in the dark. I had the chance to make the most of my situation, and it came to me that being gone for a while might not be bad, considering Catherine's state when I left her. So while most of the stuff I came across did read like what in every company above garage-based entrepreneurs is expected, in section with no titles in the books yielded some dirt. First of it, real books, not ring binders or bundled sheets. Real books bound in some sort of ceramic plates, with sheets of some sort of silky smooth stuff, feeling more like silk than paper. Glass fiber, I guess. At first, I took it for a marketing stunt. Ceramic pipe making company does their high-end sales brochures in the same material than their product need. But the contents were exactly fit for a sales pitch. I got only the rough gist of it, but according to what I could get, those were some sort of documentary about the discovery of a widespread cave system that had its outliers beneath the factory ground. Shortly after initial opening of the factory, they needed a bigger cooling pond for their machinery. After digging that and losing massive amounts of water in it, they discovered cracks in the pond floor acting like a drainage while trying unsuccessfully to steal them up. Some of the workers got themselves trapped in a cave-in. Chuckling to myself now, I know that feel. The workers later became known as the Circle. After they reemergence from the underground, those in the Circle soon started rising in the ranks of the company, soon replacing the then owner. They did this by displaying an uncanny knowledge of business, practicing the bootstrapping some new inventions in their market niche. This was the official story. Unofficially, but seriously well documented in their gospel, those books, they acted more like bloodlords from fairy tales. Their true goal seems to have been to break through to something sealed away somewhere deep in the lithosphere, because deep enough to be just above the moho, for which purpose is anybody's guess. But since they basically belt-fed their workers into the underground as diggers with a seriously short life expectancy, I doubt I could have been any good. The books contain quite graphic descriptions of how reluctant workers got coerced to dig further. No need for soft tactics like persuasion and extortion. Just right on they went up to and including the public dismantling of those unwilling to sacrifice themselves. But looks like I got to going now. I hear the feds behind me already. Later's Dear Diary. The F wrote that. God, what happens? Where am I now? Dang. I thought I could make it. What a joke. I never had a chance. They are close now. I can hear them as if they were right behind the next turn of this corridor. But I now get it. They are here already. Maybe I can finish this deal. Some more minutes to squeeze out my existence as me. Maybe I can finish. Okay. At the end of the second week, when still no one complained of lack of connection to loved ones and left behind kin. So, in effect, when we confirmed nobody would come looking for us, some guys took us down in the cellar and down deeper and deeper in corridors lined and later made of the ceramic pipes they made above us, as if walking through a gigantic vein that fed directly into an organism deep below us. Our guards were uncommunicative to us, but talked rather freely amongst each other. Nothing new there. That is what prison guards always do. What made me listen more closely than with the languages they were talking in, I recognized among the expected English, German, and Polish words some phrases I heard before from the Mexican patrons of a peculiar drive I have visited sometimes before. Words I think had Indian origin and names shouted that sounded vaguely Norwegian to me. All this from people who did not look in the slightest fitting to the languages they spoke. All this ceased when we came through a patch where presumably a water vein crossed the tunnel. We crawled for what felt a mile through wet mud and stagnant puddles of water. That was when I first noticed the cleaner air. We must have walked through a nearly invisible dust cloud for hours that gave way only when the surface of the mud acted like a sponge by binding the dust and thus cleaning the air. Only there the guards seemingly lost all knowledge they formerly possessed of the foreign languages, speaking only languages in tone with their presumed heritage. Some of them seemed to nearly lose all intelligence and had to be guided by the other guards, like sleepwalkers or drug addicts on the last legs. Some of us captives have been beginning to complain of difficulties with their cognitive facilities, or feeling like hearing voices out of the air, of losing memories of their families and friends, of not knowing items of former public interest that are common knowledge. Like one guy who was bragging about the scars he got back in the Great War, did not remember anything of his former stories. He told us just last weekend. Instead, they remember things like the conquistador coming to their land in more vivid detail than a skilled historian would have been able to supply. All this, too, ceased when we reached this mud hole. From this, I gather there is something in the dust that influences us. It can only be the dust. Nothing else fits. The dust contains memories. It contains the personalities of the people who died down here before it infects slowly. But as long as you are exposed to it, it builds up. I have to get out of here. No matter how, I will find a way. I always find a way. Oh God, oh God, oh God. Paper trails. End of part 2 of 3. So basically, they're infected by the dust and the memories. So basically, they lose all of their memories, but gain memories of people who have already passed away down there, doing the digging and searching of what they wanted. Basically, kind of like a virus and infection. They can't remember their own lives. They're basically like walking zombies and don't know what they're doing. We'll be back with part 3.